Tonight on American Sunrise Early Edition, the tariffs are on. The tariffs are off. Now they're back on again. But after all the back and forth yesterday, it's starting to look like the Supreme Court will end up deciding this thing again. Is Russia massing 50,000 new troops on the Ukrainian border? That's what Volodymyr Zelensky says. And so far, we're not seeing any real denials. This doesn't look like the building blocks of peace to me. But it looks like we are closer to some kind of peace in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly agreed to the terms of a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, hammered out by U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. But as usual, it's not clear if Hamas is on board. Getting back to the Supreme Court in an 8-0 decision, the justices strike a major blow for business and progress in America as they strongly restrict just how cumbersome and far-reaching those dreaded environmental impact studies can go. Go America. And Paramount Global wants President Trump to accept a $15 million settlement to end his lawsuit against CBS in 60 Minutes, but so far, no deal. American Sunrise Early Edition begins now.
Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition. The show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
Your good deeds and bad deeds. That's how we're going to judge you.
Join host Jake Novak as he breaks down the stories that matter.
We will be letting the public know regularly what we have found.
American Sunrise Early Edition with your host, Jake Novak, starts now.
Welcome to another No Tie Friday here on American Sunrise Early Edition. I told you it was going to be a short week. I'm sure all of you can't believe it's already Friday. Don't lie. You know you were surprised by that. It's a good thing. And we've had, again, a tremendous amount of news to cover. It certainly was a short week, but it wasn't a non-busy week. And welcome to our show right now, helping us to get through some of the latest news, Dr. James Nuzzo. He is our political and legal contributor here on American Sunrise Early Edition. He's also a former White House staffer. Jim, I have to ask you about this tariff battle. It's in the courts now. I mean, it sort of was in the courts before, but now with this trade court making a decision immediately put on hold by the federal appeals court, do you think this is eventually going to be decided by the Supreme Court? And if so, what can we expect?
Well, I think everything gets decided by the Supreme Court at this particular point. The question is when the court says enough is enough. The lawfare is clogging up their calendar, both the regular calendar and this expedited calendar, and they're not able to do anything else. And at some point, the courts are going to be saved by themselves because they recognize that if they continue going this way, they essentially have set themselves up not only to not be able to do their own work, but the administration has taken down the universities, they've taken down the media, and now they're taking down the bureaucracy, and now they're going at the judiciary. And if the judiciary continue acting the way they are, they're going to suffer the way the other three have.
Yeah. Speaking of the courts, you mentioned it with the universities. The Trump administration's work to punish Harvard keeps going in fits and starts. You've had basically everything the administration has tried to do stopped at least at some point by a lower court. And now the latest thing they're doing is they are stopping the administration from blocking Harvard from accepting foreign students. But again, not so much a prediction I'm asking for you here as far as what will happen in the higher courts, because I think this is a little bit more of a dice roll, in my opinion, than the tariffs. But here's something I can say, because you were talking.
No, actually, this one is pretty straight and clear. This is an executive prerogative. The courts have overreached. You have to divide what they've done into three parts. One, contracts that the United States has with Harvard. If you've got a contract, it's a contract. It's going to be much harder unless they can prove that like a Title IX has been overturned or hasn't been done. Any grant, I've actually spent a good part of a year when I was a youngster looking at this particular issue on a different point. And the court, the executive branch is completely free to on their own discretion make a decision regarding grants and withdraw grants for almost any reason whatsoever. The third, regarding the immigration, two parts of that. One is Again, it is completely up to the executive branch to grant or not grant any visas, and the court's reasoning is specious. The fourth thing I should say is the fact that it doesn't really matter what the courts do. What matters was happening on the ground. And that I can tell you, Harvard is a place I've called home for 40 years. And the international students, even though they right now technically can come back in the fall, are leaving. Because if you think of it, you're 20-year-old or 22-year-old doing graduate work or doing undergraduate work. The last thing you want to do is to find yourselves caught, unable to come back when you've gone visiting your home country, or being told to go home. So they're all scrambling to get out of Harvard. The University of Tokyo came out this week and basically said that any Japanese student, and they're willing to talk to others as well, there is a place at the University of Tokyo, which is their Harvard, if they want to come there. And what's going to happen is a lot of these international students, because of the inability to make a decision as to whether they're going to be there in the long term, are on their own basically going to self-deport.
All right, let's talk about
Harvard's in real significant trouble. They're putting a squeeze on. Alan Garber at the commencement yesterday was shaking his fist, but he was shaking his fist the way in which a guy knows that he's losing and is losing badly. He is. He's going to lose. Yes. It doesn't matter as to whether he has the law on his side. What he doesn't have is the American people.
All right, I saw that as well. Jim, I don't mean to whistle past the graveyard, but I'm sorry. We were told that economic doom and gloom was coming really kind of months ago, but certainly several weeks ago. And I'm not saying that we aren't going to see some impact in a negative way from the tariffs and some of the other policies. But frankly, not only are we not seeing it yet, the market's up this week it has basically recovered all of its losses from, by the way, not just the tariff thing. You might remember the NVIDIA AI scare, which started even before the tariffs, is what really started the markets in a downward spiral this year. But we recovered almost all of it. And we also had a big jump in consumer confidence, much better than expected. So honestly, Jim, I mean, it's one thing to say things are going to be bad in the future, but when you say it's going to happen right now and sell your house, sell the kids, and, do an apocalypse now kind of moment, you start to look foolish. And I would really like to see some of the people be called on the carpet, Jim Cramer, for frightening people. I really don't like that.
Well, I mean, why Jim Cramer has a job at CNBC has for decades been beyond me, because I've made a good deal of my money by shorting Jim Cramer on almost every occasion. The man is perpetually wrong. And a lot of these folks are wrong. Now, what's weird is in the past, you'd have the talking heads saying things which were wrong. These people supposedly actually have put money down, and that usually gets people to be honest. But the anti-Trump sort of decision on Wall Street is so bad that they're actually losing money for themselves. It's really kind of hilarious. It once again is demonstrating this notion of elites as having absolutely no elitism in the sense of bringing something special to the table. They don't understand it. They don't understand Wall Street at all. I can take a half a second to tell a little bit of a story. During the time in which President Bush I was running for office, Lee Atwater, who was his campaign manager, used to take a day, drive up into the hills of West Virginia or Virginia, take a roll of quarters and some clothes, and sit in a laundromat. I don't know if they have those anymore, but sit in a laundromat all day, not because he needed to go to West Virginia or Virginia to get his clothes washed, but it was an opportunity for him to listen to real people. And I would find when I was working in the White House, if I didn't get out of Washington, didn't get out of the bubble for like 2 or 2.5 weeks, my thinking changed, because I wasn't able to talk to real human beings. I was talking to other people within the bubble. And you just lose perspective. These people have completely lost perspective.
Yeah. All right. Now, Jim, you and I have discussed many times how and if this Biden cognitive scandal, which you and I both agree is really the biggest political scandal in American history, a straw man president. I mean, I don't see how you get worse than that. But we've talked about how this could possibly be adjudicated. And I think we both agree that it would be very difficult to get President Biden, certainly some of his top staffers called on the carpet. But we may have found a pathway to this, at least towards people maybe getting charged or maybe getting sued, with this fact that you have energy companies and some other development companies now saying that there's a potential proof that Joe Biden didn't know what he was doing when he signed executive orders that affected their business and affected the economy of the United States. Again, I agree with your past statements about how I don't see a bunch of people going to jail for this. But if this gets through the courts and we start seeing charges and depositions and things like that, I think we really could get some traction here. And at least the American people might find out what the heck just happened for the previous 4 years.
Look, James Comey, who is running the Oversight Committee, has launched a barrage of requests, if not outright demands, to come and speak on the record. I think that Speaker Johnson needs to sit down with Mr. Thune, Senator Thune, create a committee like the old Watergate committee, made up of adults in both parties, not partisan hacks on both parties. And both sides should want to know what has happened. And this needs to be done in a bipartisan way. It's frankly a way for Schumer to get behind this, because he looked like an idiot, the way in which he said, I'm looking forward, we're moving forward. Everyone recognizes that that's a whole lot of bull. And if I'm Schumer, I'd say, well, I'm creating this committee and I'll let the chips fall where they may. He's got to get in front of this. He's not able to get in front of this. This is an ongoing, horrible scandal for the Democratic Party. They need to go and basically disown it and put it on the Bidens and separate themselves from it.
Yeah, I honestly think that, again, when people find out about this, I mean, I thought it would be the pardons that would bring us to this place. And you talked about how that would be very difficult. But when you have American businesses, American real estate interests that have been hurt by some of this stuff. And again, they may not get anywhere as far as convictions. I want everyone watching this to have a realistic outlook on where this is going to go. But as Jim just said, it's a lot about just finding the facts out, whether someone is actually punished or not. Listen, I'd love to see it if someone is guilty, of course. I don't want some innocent go to jail. But it's finding out. I really want to know who was running the country.
Well, it's more than just sending people to jail. I mean, think of it. If this goes beyond pardons, if he signed executive orders, if he signed laws using the auto pen and he didn't have any understanding whatsoever, it was done basically in a rogue operation. There's a real question: is the law valid? Is the executive order valid? This is going to cause immense complications for years, if not decades, throughout the courts, trying to adjudicate as to what is really law, what is not law, what was or was not an executive order. This is opening Pandora's box in a very, very bad way, and everyone has got to try to figure out what it is and try to get to regular order as quickly as they can. This could really derail the American economy.
All right. What a mess. Dr. James Nuzzo, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's be honest. We're not getting any younger. And if you want to look and feel your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements designed to help with every health goal, whether it's boosting your energy, trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs. Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients, backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use coupon code EARLY at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's zero risk in trying something new. So why wait? Head over to purehealthresearch.com now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% before this deal ends with coupon code EARLY. Don't miss this chance to feel your best. Coming up, With Hamas appearing to be on its last legs, is a ceasefire deal about to go into effect? Should it? American Sunrise Early Edition. We'll be right back. It's a live look at Times Square in New York City right now, Midtown Manhattan. And on the left there, that's the studio where they do Good Morning America on a network you shouldn't be watching. Anchors who make millions and millions of dollars, a massive staff that stays, they have an overnight staff, a daytime staff, and they still don't give you as much news as I do on this program as we do here on Real America's Voice. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. I'm Jake Novak. Thank you so much, especially those of you watching and commenting on Getter and Rumble. New reports out of Israel say Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to the terms of a ceasefire deal with Hamas, brokered by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. But it's still not clear if Hamas will accept it or even comply. I'm not holding my breath. Now, if the deal is sealed, however, Hamas would release 10 living Israeli hostages held in Gaza and return the bodies of 18 deceased hostages during what would be a 60-day ceasefire. In return, Israel would release 125 Palestinian terror convicts serving life sentences and 1,111 Gazans detained since the October 7th Hamas terror attacks. No, that is not a fair deal. But again, Israelis love peace. The greatest weapon the terrorists have against the Israelis and Americans is that we have humanity, and they don't. There's a simple explanation for all of that. Meanwhile, there are also reports that the U.S. and Iran are close to making a deal over Iran's nuclear program. And there's an exclusive report this morning out of Israel that the Saudi Arabians have been pressuring Iran to make a deal, telling them there could be a war in the entire region with all the countries in the Middle East unless they make a deal with the United States. Still, though, no actual guarantee that there will be one. There are new rounds of talks expected in a couple of weeks. Nevertheless, nothing is on the table yet. Okay, this July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers that include China, Russia, India, and Iran are meeting with the goal of displacing the US dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, global demand for US dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move decisively from theoretical possibility toward inevitable reality. Learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting America to 989898 with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. Let Birch Gold arm you with the free no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and that Rio reset. Text America to 989898 today. Coming up, President Trump and Fed Chairman Jay Powell met face-to-face at the White House yesterday. Was there shouting? Was there hitting? Was there a decent assortment of pastries? I want to know. I'll have some answers when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back. You're looking at the east side of Manhattan live right there. That first bridge that you see just to the right of that tall Slim Jim building is the Brooklyn Bridge. The good way to remember the bridges that are crossing the East River is the little abbreviation BMW. First it's the Brooklyn Bridge, then it's the Manhattan Bridge, then it's the Williamsburg Bridge. These are things that you need to know if you're going to go on Jeopardy. Looks like a little bit of a gray morning here in New York, but folks in Manhattan are happy because the Knicks won last night. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because there are some political and economic lessons to learn from that game last night. David Brody and I are going to talk about that in a few minutes. But for now, let's take a look at where the markets will begin today. That is about as flat a chart as you're ever going to see. A dead zero on the Dow. Just 1.25 points down on this S&P, up 5 on the NASDAQ. Even gold and silver are flat. Oil's up, but we're still way down at $61 a barrel. We're used to 90 almost a couple of years ago. And let's take a look at Bitcoin because I think that's kind of flat too. A little bit up. We're at just about $106,000 on Bitcoin. Looks like the new ceiling on Bitcoin is 110. We've been stuck between about $104,000 and $110,000 on Bitcoin for a week or so now. Let's see if we ever break out of that basement or that ceiling. And that's where we are on those numbers. All right, President Trump and Fed Chair Jerome Powell met face-to-face at the White House yesterday. No, they didn't punch each other. No, they didn't yell at each other. But they did make their points pretty clear. President Trump told Powell he was being, quote, foolish for not lowering interest rates. And Powell says he told President Trump and then he told the country that he will not make interest rate decisions based on politics alone. So they're basically holding their ground. I'm sure they actually had a cordial conversation. Everyone who actually meets President Trump in person, whether it's Bill Maher all the way to Jerome Powell, they say when they actually meet him in person, not only is there no fighting or cursing or insults, they actually have productive, interesting conversations, and the president listens. Of course, that doesn't make it into the mainstream newspapers because they want to frighten you. I'm here to tell you the truth. Sometimes it'll be frightening, but for the most part, that's not my goal. All right. I have an interesting story here that I think tells you all about the litigious nature of America and also how some corporations are just stupid. They don't know an opportunity when they see one. There's a guy named Richard Montanez. He is a famous man in the world of snacking. He was once a janitor at Frito-Lay, but in his spare time, he used to experiment with new flavors. One of them turned out to be Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Are there any stoners out there? Okay, just kidding. But Frito-Lay parent Pepsi recently refused to say Montanez was really an essential player in the development of that snack. He was trying to do a documentary about how he made that flavor. Pepsi didn't want to participate in it. Well, you know what happened next. Montanez sued, saying that Pepsi's refusal to join in that documentary basically was a denial, and it cost him thousands of dollars in personal appearance fees and other marketing opportunities. I'm not sure if that's true or not. He seems like a pretty cool guy. The courts have just sided with Pepsi, however, so I don't know what Montanez is going to do next. But here's my message to Pepsi. People die for a story like this. A former janitor at your corporation had at least something to do with the development of a popular new flavor. Not only should that be something you admit happened, even if you're stretching the truth a little, you should be doing it in every commercial for years. It's a great story. It will get people talking about this snack. I'm talking about this snack. And they did make a documentary about this. Pepsi should be embracing this, should be embracing the movie, should be talking about it just for marketing purposes alone. Who are the marketing people at Pepsi? They should all be fired. Big money-making opportunity. Instead, they decided to go to court. I don't understand these people. They don't like money, I guess. All right. Thanks to its new partnership with JetBlue, United Airlines will be returning to JFK and will operate about 7 round-trip flights from that New York airport starting in 2027. The deal will also allow United and JetBlue customers to apply bonus miles and loyalty benefits across the two airlines. Now, I'm going to hold up on this story right now. I'm going to admit something that no one else is going to admit. This story about United Airlines going back to JFK and doing 7 round-trip flights, I know that affects a lot of viewers who are watching, especially those of you in Florida and New York. So I'm not saying it's not a story. But if you looked at the business news pages yesterday, if you looked at some of the just regular news pages on websites or on TV, this story was everywhere. Why? Because one of the biggest biases in the news is a geographic bias. I promise you that if United and JetBlue were operating 30 new flights out of an airport in Florida or in Dubuque, that would not make any news. But JFK, New York geographical bias, I admit it, I just fell for it, but I just wanted you to see what that's all about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. I know I'm ranting this morning, but we got something to rant about. That's good. Moving America, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company, artilleryteaco.com. Use promo code America's Tea for 25% off of your first order. Artillery Tea is all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free. Each tea bag can be used twice. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran owned and operated, and a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. Artilleryteaco.com, promo code America's Tea for 25% off your first order. Hey, again, talk about companies that are smart, companies that aren't smart. Volkswagen gets in the smart column today because it says it won't raise prices on new cars and trucks and vans from now through June. That's when everyone else is saying they're going to raise prices. VW says the pricing freeze applies to the company's entire lineup in the U.S., from the Taos, which is less than $30,000 sticker price, to the $62,000 plus ID Buzz. For now, Volkswagen is prepared to eat the cost of the current 25% tariffs on vehicles imported to the United States. Why would they do that? Because of what I just did. I just gave them a free commercial. I'm not doing that on purpose, and believe me, I'm not getting any money. That's where the free comes in free commercial. But a number of car companies, a number of other companies are smart enough to say that they are going to eat the cost for now. That gets customers thinking, hey, this company's on my side, and they get a free attention for their products. I don't know why more companies aren't doing this. They can always say in a month that we're going to raise prices. It's worth it for the millions of dollars of free advertising they're going to get. Again, no one listens to me, I guess, in the marketing world, but they should. Okay, the rumors have now been confirmed. Jeep is bringing back the Jeep Cherokee. Again, folks, it's not the Grand Cherokee. I know a lot of you see a lot of Grand Cherokees on the road. This is the regular Cherokee. It released this teaser video yesterday. It says the new Cherokee will be available in the later months of this year. This is an important car. This isn't just one company talking about something. It was the Jeep Cherokee and some of the other Jeep models that started the SUV craze in America. It was a slow start. It was really something that began in the early 70s and was really just for niche people who lived in mountain territory, people who lived in rural areas. Then the preppies started to get into it, even though they were living in suburban areas. And then, of course, the rest of the country got into it. The Jeep Cherokee played a big role in that. It's coming back after a 2-year or 3-year hiatus from your showrooms. Okay, have I got a deal for you? You know, I like to give you deals sometimes. Hertz, the rental company, is looking to offload dozens of 4-cylinder Maseratis at exceptionally low prices. Many of these Maseratis are priced under $40,000 on the Hertz used car sales website. And a lot of them have fewer than 15,000 miles on them. The rental company has been trying to move these luxury SUVs for several months now. Hertz has almost 40. They used to be Great Calais. They're available nationwide. They have 17 of them that are priced under 40 grand. And out of those 17, 2 of them have fewer than 10,000 miles on them. Another 8 are under 15,000 miles. This is a great deal. I don't know how reliable the Great Calais is as a car, but it's probably pretty decent. It's probably pretty cool to drive around in a car like that, and it is a deal. And again, some of these used car companies can get you a good deal sometimes. But again, see if you can get your mechanic to check out any used car you buy. That's my personal tip. Okay, speaking of mechanics, we all know that good auto mechanics are always in demand. But how about mechanics who know how to fix cars that are more than 100 years old? Well, the Henry Ford Museum is looking for them because somebody has to maintain and fix its fleet of original Model Ts that you can see in that museum in Dearborn, Michigan. I want to read you the one ad because you're never going to see a one ad like this probably ever again. Quote, "Now hiring. We are seeking qualified applicants to fill the one-of-a-kind role of antique vehicle mechanic at the Henry Ford. This full-time position oversees operation, inspection, repairs, and preventative maintenance on operating historic land vehicles dating from 1914 to 1953, a 111-year-old car. I would not want to be responsible for maintaining that. What if I break something? Anyway, that's a fun museum to visit. Okay, coming up, the fact that thousands of people in Gaza are no longer afraid of Hamas as they disobey the terrorists and rush toward U.S. and Israeli-supplied aid shows you that they are really not afraid. But will a ceasefire deal save Hamas from the jaws of defeat? And what can the U.S. make of Russian President Vladimir Putin now? It doesn't seem like he's interested in peace. So does that mean the Trump team can just wash its hands of the whole Russia-Ukraine peace dream? American Sunrise Early Edition. We'll be right back. It's Friday, May 30th. Here are some of this morning's top stories. The tariffs are on. The tariffs are off. Now they're back on again. That after all the back and forth yesterday, it's starting to look like the Supreme Court will end up deciding this thing again. Hey, is Russia massing 50,000 new troops on the Ukrainian border? That's what Volodymyr Zelensky says. And so far, we're not seeing any real denials. This doesn't look like the building blocks of peace to me. But it looks like we are closer to some kind of peace in the Middle East, one way or the other. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly agreed to the terms of a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, hammered out by U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. But as usual, it's not clear if Hamas is on board. And getting back to the Supreme Court, in an 8-0 decision, the justices strike a major blow for business and progress in America as they strongly restrict just how cumbersome and far-reaching those dreaded environmental impact studies can go. American Sunrise Early Edition continues now. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition on this No Tie Friday. I am Jake Novak. I am again sending a special welcome and good morning to those of you who are watching and commenting on Getter and Rumble. There are a lot of you watching on the X app as well. Thank you for that. Again, feel free to comment. This is not a passive news program like we grew up with, or like that scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where everyone's sitting in the psych ward and begging Nurse Ratched to change the channel. You have the power, you can comment, and more importantly, I'm reading and very often learning something from some of the things you guys tell me in that chat. We got a couple things I want to tell you about just a little bit later today here on Real America's Voice. There is going to be a Trump rally. President Trump is going to Pennsylvania, in Michelin, Pennsylvania. That's where it is, and that is going to be where he is going to be. Oh, Mifflin. I'm sorry. Why did I say Michelin? I've got tires on my mind. Mifflin, Pennsylvania. And President Trump is going to be at that rally. And Real America's Voice is going to have extensive coverage of that. You're going to have Eric Bolling and Mike Crispy starting that coverage at 3 p.m. Eastern time, going all the way up to 7 p.m. Then Ben Berquan is going to join us. So that's going to be a really interesting day. A rally, every once in a while, you got to talk to the people. Very important story about President Reagan. After he got shot, he was finally ready to make a speech and talk to the people. And the speechwriters told him, don't worry about what we're going to write about for you, Mr. President. You'll be preaching to the choir. And President Reagan got serious and said, well, the choir needs music. And the choir needs music. Whether you're a supporter of President Trump or not, you need to watch these kinds of rallies. Make sure you're on top of what he's talking about, because otherwise, people who are not as honest as we are here on Real America's Voice will try to twist it. Maybe some people try to twist it too positively, but certainly they're most likely to do it more negatively. So I want to make that clear. All right, let's talk about what's going on in the Middle East right now, because we've got a couple of stories that are pretty important that I don't know if everyone is following very closely, and I wouldn't blame you because there's been so much back and forth. Now, we got reports out of Israel yesterday that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had told the hostage families in a private conversation that he had agreed to terms with a 60-day ceasefire that had been hammered out with Steve Witkoff, the special envoy from the United States from the Trump administration. 60-day ceasefire with Hamas. In return, and I put this in quotes, in return, Israel would get 10 of the living hostages that Hamas is holding, 18 of the bodies that Hamas killed, the hostages they killed, and in return, Israel would give back to Hamas 125 living terrorists with death sentences, and more than 1,100 other people who had been detained. Really, obviously not a fair trade by any means. Of course, Hamas hasn't accepted this deal yet, so don't hold your breath. It's possible this will not happen. We certainly want to get those living hostages back, don't get me wrong. But Hamas, as many of you may have seen in the videos of thousands of people in just the last couple of days, rushing past the barriers that Hamas had set up, trying to stop them from getting food aid that had been given to them by the United States and with aid from Israel as well. The fact that the people are no longer afraid of Hamas and crashing through those barriers tells me that Hamas is all done. This wouldn't really be the time, again, in my opinion, to make a ceasefire deal with a terrorist army and a terrorist group that is already defeated. But apparently, I think what's going on here is Israel doesn't think they're going to get those 10 living hostages back no matter what happens, because even if Hamas is defeated, the people who are holding them, sometimes just families who are supportive of terror, who are holding them in God knows where, won't give up the hostages. So that may be the only reason for this, that Israel's at least agreeing to it. But again, it hasn't happened yet. Again, if you see these videos of people in Gaza, this is video of the war scenes, but you may have seen the scenes of the last few days of people rushing past the barriers, thanking the United States, telling the United States they're thankful. And we do have a soundbite of one of those people from Gaza getting aid the other day. And here's what he had to say when he got the aid. Listen to this. Watch this.
احنا سنحل لا على هويه بسلم ولا على بصمه العين، كل غزه اخذ الناس بتاخذ كرتونه وثلاثه. بتاعت حماس بدونك تروحش على الامريكان، يخلف على الامريكان هم بدون طحين واكل. اسامه حمدان في قطر شبعان نايم تحت المكيفات هو ونسوانه واولاده، بقول لك ما حدش يروح، احنا بنراهن على ايش؟ على صمود شعبنا. صمود مين يا حبيبي؟ تعال اتفرج كيف الناس، اتفرج كيف الناس جعانه بتروح. من الشعب لحماس سلمي وراجل تروح دمرت غزه يا عم ارحمونا من شيء الامن يرحمونا.
Yeah, that's them thanking Trump, thanking the United States for providing this aid, and more importantly, not only criticizing Hamas, but mentioning the fact that some of the Hamas leaders are still in air-conditioned hotels in Qatar, while they're being told, be steadfast, just sit there, wait, get killed. Again, they don't care about them. They understand that. The people of Gaza understand that. And the fact that they're willing to say that on camera, I know here in the United States, we're used to people jumping in front of cameras and saying what they want to say at any given time. You can't do that in a place like Gaza unless the terrorists are weak enough that you feel confident that you can say that without getting shot in 5 minutes. So this is a good sign. It would be a bad time, I think, to make a deal with Hamas right now. If there's any other way to get the hostages out, don't make a deal with Hamas when they're on the mat and the knockout count is at 8 or 9. That's not the time to make the deal. But again, I admit it. It's easy for me to say I don't have a loved one who's still a living hostage, but I would like to see maybe another way to get those hostages back other than giving Hamas 60 days to get back off that mat. Now, with Hamas so weak, that is, again, the question that people are asking, is it just Hamas? Now, I have another story for you that is also a good news story. Remember, it's okay to say good news on television news, folks. To my colleagues on other television news stations who think they can only frighten people, you're wrong. Because here's another thing that's going on. Hezbollah, which is actually really the granddaddy of them all. You talk about Hamas, you talk about even Al-Qaeda. Hezbollah actually is the biggest and most powerful, has been, terrorist army for many, many decades. But it is significantly weaker in the last several months. Now, some of that is because of the whole beeper thing. Remember when the Israelis blew up the beepers of all the top Hezbollah people and eliminated a tremendous amount of their leadership with very little collateral damage? There was almost no one else injured. It was an incredible, incredible operation, as you see here. But what's been going on in the last several weeks is that the Lebanese government, which sometimes and very often actually looks the other way at Hezbollah terror and just sits there and doesn't do anything, has started to do something. Not much, but at very least they are cooperating with Israel and, frankly, the United States as well, which is helping the targeting of some of these Hezbollah terrorist outfits. And Hezbollah has been weakened even more. It is significantly weakened. Again, this is the biggest and craziest and most powerful terrorist army probably in the history of the world. They've been in control of a tremendous amount of the Middle East for 40 plus years. Again, it's Iran. Iran backs Hezbollah. Iran created Hezbollah. And Hezbollah killed hundreds of American Marines, you might remember, in 1983 in the Beirut bombing. You might remember that. Well, Hezbollah is very, very much weakened right now, thanks to the help, finally, that the Lebanese government is getting out of the way, sometimes even providing some troops for cover just to keep bystanders out of there, as the Israelis are doing their work to wipe out this terrible terrorist organization. As bad as things have been in the Middle East since the October 7th attacks, there are many positives that have happened since then. Hamas almost finished. Hezbollah probably at 20% strength from where they were before October 7th, and a few other positives as well. Again, don't want to think that those soldiers and some of those good people who passed away died in vain, because they didn't. Now, there's a little bit of bad news, of course, in another part of the world. Can't leave this out of the broadcast. Russia and Ukraine, that war doesn't look any closer to being resolved at all. In fact, Vladimir Zelensky says that Russia's massing 50,000 troops for another big offensive into Ukraine. I haven't heard any big denials of this, so I'm assuming at least it's close to being true. The Trump administration said, you might remember, President Trump said earlier this week that within 2 weeks, he'll know whether or not Vladimir Zelensky is being serious about peace at all. I have a spoiler alert for President Trump. Vladimir Putin is not serious. Vladimir Zelensky may not be very serious either. this is a situation where there may not much the United States can do, but it can do things with some of the other countries surrounding this conflict. We can support Poland more. We can support some of the other nations around there more. And we can start talking seriously with the Europeans about buying U.S. energy instead of Russian energy products. These European countries that lecture and finger wag President Trump about not supporting Ukraine enough are actually sending more money to Russia when they buy energy from Russia than they're sending to Ukraine. These people are hypocrites. They need to be called on that. And it would be nice to help the American energy industry at the same time. It would be a win-win-win for everyone, but Vladimir Putin and probably Vladimir Zelensky too would be a loser because he would lose his stranglehold on the rest of the world, at least the rest of the world, not including Donald Trump. Speaking of President Trump, I told you already about the rally that he's holding in Mifflin, Pennsylvania, and our coverage here on Real America's Voice will start at 3 p.m. with Eric Bolling and Mike Crispy, and then it's going to continue all the way through 7 p.m. with Ben Berkwan, so that's going to be something you want to catch. But at 1 p.m., there's going to be a special news conference with President Trump and Elon Musk. I assume this is going to be the official send-off for Musk as he leaves the government service to go back to fully concentrate on all of his amazing businesses, Tesla, SpaceX. I'm also a big fan of something called The Boring Company. It's called The Boring Company. It's a play on words. If you might remember, Elon Musk is talking about building a tunnel system under Los Angeles to help with the traffic there. I'd love for him to get back to that. That's just my wishful thinking. But anyway, 1 p.m., you'll see that also. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll see that also here on Real America's Voice as we say thank you to Elon Musk, basically the richest man of the world. Love him or hate him, he, for no money, came into the government and cut a lot of wasteful spending. I got to give him a thank you for that. Okay, coming up, David Brody and I are going to talk about why the amount of money people paid for seats to a Knicks playoff game last night tells you some truths about the economy and about politics that you need to know. Yes, this is not just an excuse to show Knicks highlights. American Sunrise Early Edition. We'll be right back. You know, we're not just about New York City on this program. How about Long Island, New York? This is Suffolk County, Port Jefferson, New York. Really beautiful little town. A lot of walkable downtowns on Long Island you can go to, especially in the summer. And just out of the frame of this shot is a massive barn-like ice cream place, which is awesome. And the owner is a huge Trump supporter. There's a huge Trump banner on the roof of that ice cream place. You can't miss it. Port Jefferson, New York, a beautiful town. And I like ice cream. Welcome back, folks, to American Sunrise Early Edition. It is No Tie Friday here, and it was a short week. I told you it was going to be a short week because we got that Monday off for Memorial Day. I want to talk about something that you may not think, two things that you may not think go together, but believe me, they do. Now, the New York Knicks, let's get this off the table first. The New York Knicks are still alive. They beat the Indiana Pacers last night in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference NBA Finals. It was a pretty comfortable Knicks win. They were pretty much leading wire to wire, a couple of tight moments. So they're still down, and I don't know if they're going to win this thing. They're still down 3-2. That was an exciting game. But while I was watching the game last night, because I'm a little bit curious, I decided to go on some of those ticket reseller apps, where you can get scalp tickets. And I was just wondering, what are people paying for those courtside seats or those seats a few rows in from the court? And every single seat was going for at least $23,000 for a Game 5 in an Eastern Conference final when the Knicks were down 3-1. There was even one guy selling his courtside seat for $160,000. I'm sure he didn't get that, but every seat was sold. And so you can bet that courtside seat probably went for a lot more than $23,000, and all those other seats sold for that. Now, why am I talking about this? Because a lot of those people in those seats, some of those celebrities, Spike Lee, Ben Stiller, the list goes on, are the same people telling you that Trump is a disaster, President Trump is destroying the economy, we're on the verge of another Great Depression, and yet they have 20, 30, 60, maybe even $100,000 to spend on tickets to a Knicks playoff game. Now, if you think this is just an outlier, this doesn't tell you anything, I'm going to bring David Brody in. I'm going to remind him that during the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, the same types of people didn't want to be seen courtside, didn't want to be seen in those home plate seats right behind home plate at Yankee Stadium. You might remember there was a conspicuous consumption fear that these people had. Why? Because in 2008 and early 2009, the economy really was in trouble. It really was in bad shape. And that is why they did that. But last night, nobody showed any shame. And you know what, David? Actions speak louder than words. I'm sure you have something to say about this because you're a crazy Knicks fan.
I am a crazy Knicks fan. First of all, breaking news banner, please. Hollywood is duplicitous because you might as well just cue that banner up because that's happening all the time. Can I get something quickly out of the way beyond the fact that my Knicks are now only down 3-2 and I think they're going to win in 7, whatever, yada, yada, yada. No. And then I'll wake up. Let me just say, when I went to Knicks games, because I grew up about 2 miles from Madison Square Garden on the mean streets of the latte-sipping Zabar's crowd in the Upper West Side, can I just say that I paid $6. Okay, let me rephrase that. My father paid $6 for him, $6 for me. We were not courtside. We were up in the blue seats, the very high blue seats. And when I say high, I don't just mean high. I mean the marijuana high blue seats. Not that my dad and I were doing marijuana, and I was not doing marijuana at the age of 8 years old. But the point is, I ain't paying $20,000 for a seat. And by the way, you say $20,000. That's right. Let's remember, ... That's per ticket. Okay, so if you're bringing the old family of 4, which they're not because they don't like family, but they're bringing, let's say, their girlfriend who they've slept with for 17 years and haven't married, that's $40,000, Jake. That's $40,000. All right. Anyhow, having said all of that, look, after all of this, Trump, what does he do? What does he do? He wants to save Hollywood. He wants to make Hollywood great again with the tariffs, right? I mean, he's trying to help these people out. Oh, and what do the Hollywood producers do? Oh, no, I'm not really into that. I don't like what Trump's trying to do. Trump's trying to make your lives better. He's trying to make Hollywood better. He's trying to make movies in America better, that type of stuff, or great again, if you will, rather than overseas. And so he came up with a tariff plan, as you know, and yet these people still cannot get to this, hey, Trump's trying to actually help us out. They just are blinded by that. They're blinded by the fact that this is a great economy, and they just can't deal with it. And look at the stock market, like you said, right? I mean, it went down for a little bit, now back up. But no, for them, it's always down. It will be down. It's going down, even though when it's going up. And that should say everything, because we're in an America 180, and Hollywood leads the way as it relates to the fact that when we think things are up, they think things are down. We think things are immoral. They think it's just fine. It's moral as can be. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Skin in the game. Watch what people do with their money, not with their mouths. Yeah. I'm trying to do both here. Thanks, everyone. Real American Sunrise, the big show starting. I'll see you on Monday.
America American Sunrise is a great way to start your morning. Join us Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got the news of the day and some compelling interviews that you don't want to miss. Here's what you missed from yesterday. Elon Musk, that his 130 days as a special government employee is about to expire. That's going to happen tomorrow. But David, I think the bigger story here is this trade court that came out and basically nixed, or at least put on ice, President Trump's tariffs.
I have 3 words. Those freaking judges. I mean, here they go again. And this is just a small en banc panel, just 2-1. But look, this is what the Trump administration is up against time and time again. And the Elon Musk story is also big. I mean, let's be honest. I think if it was going over better internally, he probably wouldn't be leaving just so quickly.
I think the man was like Atlas, taking the world on his shoulders. I mean, he's a private businessman. He's had successful businesses. He comes in to work on Doge. It was teased, and then now he did it. And we'll talk about it later in the show, but he's been the whipping boy, for so much, and I think undeservedly.
The framework is already set. I think the foundation is set. And so now you just kind of, I think, follow the roadmap. You don't necessarily need one person heading that up. President Trump heads that up, if you will. But the roadmap is there, and I think you just need people to continue to follow the roadmap, and more importantly, to codify and make this a consistent thing, not just a one-hit pony.
They came in so hot and did so many great things, and then they got so much pushback and stonewalled, and it was clear that Congress wasn't going to work with them.
He's left the building like Elvis. But before he left, he said he is disappointed with how the House budget bill, the budget reconciliation bill, came out.
Everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
This bill is incredibly pro-working class. It's incredibly pro-America, and it shows how important it is for Congress to get involved and ensure that what the Trump administration is doing has longevity and sustainability.
Let the negotiations begin. And anybody who's been in the private sector understands that when negotiations begin, they can be a little rough, they can be a little ugly, there's a lot of tension, but that is not a bad thing.
President Trump says he has discussed Iran with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and said he told Netanyahu not to take actions to disrupt these Iran nuclear talks that are currently going on.
Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution.
And he's just asking Netanyahu for a little bit of time, which they do have.
Ahead on American Sunrise, President Trump set to deliver a major speech today in Pittsburgh touting a recent steel investment. We're going to bring you right to the scene. Plus, the Pentagon diverting money to the southern border. So how much are they sending, and what in the world is it going to be used for? And also today, President Trump going after California Gavin Newsom and his hairspray yet again. What is the latest feud? Well, we have those stories and more as American Sunrise starts pronto. That's right now. Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Good morning, I'm Bo Davidson filling in for Dr. Gina live from West Palm Beach. Let's bring in the gang. David Brody in Washington, D.C. and Terrance Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning, guys. It's already Friday. We had a short week, didn't we?
We
Wasn't
did.
short enough.
No, but Bo, thanks for being here all week with us. I know it was a short week. We could have used more Bo. You're like cowbell, more cowbell, more Bo.
Well,
but real quick, is your mother satisfied with this week's work? By you? I just double checking.
I think I got about an A- on it. She was reminding me of things last night. Well, why didn't you talk about the fact that you didn't say this and you didn't say that? And I said, Mom, I can't remember every single thing that I did as a kid. You remember it, but I don't remember it. But thank you, Terrance and Emily and David, for being such hospitable hosts while I've been here. I've actually learned a lot too. You guys are such you're so great and knowing so much and informing our viewers. So thank you for being so hospitable.
Well, keep going.
You keep with those platitudes, you'll be welcome back every day, all day. Goodness, I love it. Mama Bo, good morning to you. I'm going to call her Mama Bo. That's my nickname.
I like that.
For her, Mama
She'll
Bo.
like it too.
I like it.
Hey guys, so look, let's get to some of the big stories of the day. One of the stories that we've been following pretty much since Wednesday is President Trump's tariffs. Of course, you remember that International Trade Court said, oh, we're putting the tariffs on freeze. Mr. President, you can't do this. Well, yesterday an appeals court came back and said, no, Mr. President, you can continue. These trades are on again, off again, be it in court or be it with some senators and Congress members who are pushing back against the president, even some Republican Congress members initially pushed back. This is very interesting. It's interesting how all of this is developing, David.
Yeah, for sure. It's like as the tariffs turn. It's literally like a soap opera. All my judges, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is that this is topsy-turvy. And I say this in a bless your heart sort of endearing way, but with Donald Trump, with President Trump, things are always topsy-turvy. And it's exactly the way he likes it. Keep your enemy, if you will, off balance. And don't let it, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, all of that. You need to know when to walk away and whatever that other thing is, something about Left Behind. I can't remember the Kenny Rogers full song. But the point is that he keeps them guessing, Bo, and that's the key. And in this case, the judges are kind of back and forth on this too, so we'll wait and see how this plays out.
David, and help me make sense of this, just for our viewers to understand. I mean, this federal appeals court, they reinstated the tariffs, they got the stay, and in another separate case, U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras says he ruled against the tariffs, but he's putting a stay on his own order. So my thing is as this all gets sussed out, we still have to be able to maintain these tariffs, right, David? Because otherwise, we can't put the pressure on China, we can't put the pressure on these other countries. We have to let some level of negotiation work out, do we not?
100%. Nothing's going to change for so. I just like the fact that you said sussed. I'm sorry, I'm kind of stuck on that. But yeah, for sure. And that's the whole point, T. Bates, is that the Supreme Court's going to have the final say because clearly, beyond the fact that the judiciary is all over the place, there's a real concern about whether or not federal appeals court judges, or not federal appeals court, but district judges should be making these type of decisions. It really needs to be up to federal. I believe not just the U.S. Supreme Court, but I'm okay with federal appeals judges doing it, but not district court judges doing nationwide injunctions. But that's my take.
Yeah.
Right, and that's something that very likely is going to be decided, as you said, by the Supreme Court, and that all of that's part of the birthright citizenship case that's before the Supreme Court right now. Right. That issue is to some degree separate but still connected, and once the Supreme Court rules on that, I think it's going to really set precedent and set a blueprint for what these district judges can do, so we're going to be watching that. All right, guys, let's get to today's Bible verse, because we've got a lot to talk about, plus my vacation starts in about 2 hours, and I can't wait to get there. Sorry, but yeah, I'm just bad info.
Well, we will bless you, Terrance, with today's Bible verse then as you make your departure from Hebrews 13:15. Therefore, by him, let us continually offer the sacrifice of praise to God, that is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. So to make sure, Terrance, you're giving thanks to his name while you're away. I hope you will. We all should. President Trump is set to speak in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this afternoon to tout a steel deal between Nippon Steel and United States Steel. Trump posted on Truth Social, for many years, the name United States Steel was synonymous with greatness, and now it will be again. This will be a planned partnership between United States Steel and Nippon Steel, which will create at least 70,000 jobs and add $14 billion to the U.S. economy. The bulk of that investment will occur in the next 14 months. This is the largest investment in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My tariff policies will ensure that steel will once again be forever made in America. From Pennsylvania to Arkansas and from Minnesota to Indiana, American made is back. I will see you all at U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh on Friday, May 30th for a big rally. For more, let's go live to Pittsburgh, where RAV correspondent and host of Law & Border, Ben Bergquam, is. Ben, Truth Social, Trump's Truth Social post sounded like from the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee. I thought he was reciting God Bless the USA. He's really touting this as being an American venture. What can you tell us about what we're supposed to hear from the president today?
Well, he also, you look at those states, he's talking about flyover states, a lot of forgotten. You know, I came from Arkansas over here, a lot of places in America that have felt forgotten by the American populace, by the American government in particular. And now President Trump is putting the emphasis back on that, on the American worker, on the American people, on the citizens first, on America first. And it all goes back to American manufacturing. You look at the history here in Allegheny County. You know, they used to have, U.S. Steel used to employ 340,000 employees. Now they're down between 3,000 and 4,000. And so it's a huge industry. It used to be a huge industry that's been devastated in part by the undercutting of foreign manufacturing from countries like China. So it all ties together, like you guys were talking about. This all comes back to leverage, and President Trump using America's leverage to put America first again.
Ben, I was reading an article this morning that was basically making the argument that one of the reasons President Trump is focusing on Pennsylvania in particular is because he happened to win it during his presidency and that it was a critical state. And so this is a way to really kind of solidify that base there in Pennsylvania leading up to the midterms. What are you hearing there on the ground in terms of anticipation, in terms of excitement about the president bringing this deal?
We see going on right now.
I'm sorry, say that again, Ben. I wasn't hearing you. Go ahead, say that again.
Yeah, might have lost Ben. Well,
Okay.
well, let's continue with that conversation, Terrance. You bring up a very valid point. Maybe David can take that.
David, so the point was in this article is that President Trump, of course, won Pennsylvania, that it was one of the critical states on his way to the presidency. And so reinvesting in Pennsylvania is also an investment for Republicans in general towards the midterms.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes to a Dr. Phil answer, quite frankly, and that is that President Trump values loyalty. And he was loyal, Pennsylvania was loyal to him in the general election, and he's coming back for that. But let's get more from Ben on that. And Ben, Terrance was in the middle of asking you a question. I don't know how much you heard of it, but I don't know. Take it away.
Yeah, well, going back, Terrance has started the question about the 2026, and that's what this is all about. You look at the battles that President Trump is facing, what America's facing right now. We basically have two battles going on right now. We have those external forces that are putting pressure on President Trump, but then we have the internal. It's the enemies within our own government. You've got the judges and the leftists that are actually working on behalf of America's enemies. And the only way, and that includes the rhinos in the House and the Senate. You saw, this budget bill get passed. It's really pretty much garbage because we have so many rhinos still in the House and the Senate. You can't get anything good actually passed. So President Trump is looking at 2026. Every single American citizen should be looking at 2026. We have to get MAGA representation, more in the House and more in the Senate, to give President Trump the ability to do what he needs to do from a legislative standpoint. Not all of this can be done through executive orders, and everything that is done through executive orders can be undone by the next administration. And so everything is on 2026. Can we get increases in the House? Can we get rid of the rhinos in the House? Can we get rid of the rhinos in the Senate and increase them with MAGA candidates that will actually support things like Doge and President Trump's policy, economic policy, on putting pressure on other countries like China, and his policies on the border and everything else? Because all of this ties to that, undercutting American workers, undercutting American jobs. When you bring in 15 million illegals, I get conservative number, you're going to destroy America's workforce. And so that's all of that plays into this. And this just happens to be one of the pivotal places, Pennsylvania, in particular, Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, pivotal places in the 2026 election.
Ben, about 30 seconds left. I do want to get your thoughts on this military.com headline that says Pentagon diverts $1 billion from Army barracks to fund border mission. The money is going to more troops at the border. Tell us exactly what those funds are going to be designed to do.
Well, from the beginning, most of the efforts or most of the involvement by federal troops on the border was observe and report. And that's been going on in particular since President Trump took office. You've had National Guard down there. You've had different layers of the DOD involved on our southern border. But we saw with basically President Trump setting up a military base along the border, that Roosevelt corridor. There's a stretch of 60 feet away from the wall that is federally controlled. And what that does, that actually gives, as President Trump is moving troops down to those areas and basically turning those into operational bases, military operational bases. Those troops can not only observe and report, they can actually act, and they can act on behalf of America's interests. They can apprehend. They can actually, as far as I understand it constitutionally, they can send people back. And so you don't even have to have the processes potentially that we see being gamed by the left, where you have to let an illegal in, you have to give them some sort of due process before you can send them back out. And so President Trump, if nothing else, is ingenious when it comes to strategy. And so all of this, what we see here, what he's doing today with the tariffs and with steel, and what he's doing on our southern border, the fact that they took that Roosevelt Strip and are using it as a way to take back control of our southern border. And I think some of it's a work in progress. So they're going down. They know they're going to be attacked by judges. They know they're going to be attacked by leftist sanctuary supporting politicians, but they're putting the pressure back on both those politicians and on the cartels that are trying to control the southern border.
Well, Ben, we certainly look forward to your reporting later on from the rally in Pittsburgh. So, Ben, thank you so much for your time and all your great work.
Thanks, Ben.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Well, coming up, folks, we check out the hottest headlines from the RAV newsroom with T. Bates. And later, California is facing major budget deficits. What is driving it? We have the answers ahead on American Sunrise. Stay with us.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
Manhattan, the Knicks. You know I love the Knicks. Do you know? Do you care? You don't care. No, I get that, but the Knicks won last night. They beat the Pacers. 111.94. Sports, always on the, what time is it exactly? It's 8:16 a.m., so sports on the 16s here on Real America's Voice and American Sunrise. Welcome back, everybody, to the big show. I'm David Brody. Coming up, Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. Oh, they're talking about something pretty controversial, and it's going to be playing out here in the next few weeks. We will explain that. First, though, T. Bates standing by with the latest headlines from the Real America's Voice newsroom, and it's sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk's tenure ends today. He and President Trump are set to hold a joint news conference in the Oval Office this afternoon. Taking to Truth Social on Thursday, the president writing, "This will be his last day, but not really, because he will always be with us, helping all the way." After stepping down from his position as a special government employee, Musk is expected to return to his jobs at Tesla, SpaceX, and X. Musk has said that his goal was to save $2 trillion through his efforts with Doge. He hasn't quite realized such aggressive savings, but anticipates savings of $150 billion in fiscal year 2026. That money will be recouped through the fraud, waste, and abuse that Doge has uncovered. And it turns out Musk is already shifting his focus from Doge to space exploration. The billionaire says his latest goal is to send an uncrewed Starship to Mars by the end of next year. Musk's SpaceX embarked on its latest Starship launch earlier this week. It was the latest in a string of failed test flights for the new Mars Starship, though. The timeline for reaching Mars hinges on whether Starship engineers can solve a number of technical challenges, including a difficult post-launch refueling maneuver. In a video posted on X, Musk says there's a 50-50 chance that his company will successfully reach that 2026 goal. The first flight to Mars would carry a simulated crew consisting of one or more robots. The first human crews would follow in the second and third flights. Now to some sad news. Former NYPD Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik is dead. He passed away Thursday at New York's Presbyterian Hospital, surrounded by family and friends. Kerik was known as America's cop following the 9/11 terror attacks. He led the NYPD through that dark time in the city's history. The 69-year-old's high-profile career included guiding the Big Apple to a 63% decline in violent crime. However, Kerik was also on the wrong side of the law as he served 4 years in federal prison for tax evasion. He was eventually pardoned by President Trump during Trump's first term in office. Bernie Kerik, dead at 69 years old. We'll have more headlines coming your way here in just a little bit. Plus, President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom, well, they are feuding again. Stick around to find out what they're fighting about this time. And next, how can California get out of its massive budget problems? A San Diego County supervisor has the answers straight ahead. Right now, though, a quick look at this day in history. It was on this date in 1922 that the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. was dedicated. Former President William Howard Taft, who at the time was serving as Chief Justice on the Supreme Court, conducted the ceremony. Congress authorized building the monument in 1867, but funding wasn't done until 1911. Construction was slowed further due to World War I. More American Sunrise coming your way in 2 minutes.
that's just absolutely beautiful. A camera on top of the Washington Monument. That's a live look. Beautiful day in D.C. You can see the World War II memorial in the middle of your screen there, and then all the way down. Forrest Gump is somewhere in that, in the reflecting pool there, and then Lincoln Memorial there. Finally, that little white building there at the end, which is not so little when you see it in person. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. California facing a massive debt problem, among many other problems, FYI. A report from the state-funded Legislative Analyst's Office says the state will be facing 10 to 20 billion, I didn't say million, that's not a typo, billion dollars in budget deficits for the next several years. It also says these deficits will be hard to overcome as time goes on, and it blamed borrowing during the Great Recession to pay for regular operations. So how can California get this cleaned up? Let's turn to Gavin Newsom. No, never mind. For more, let's bring in San Diego County Supervisor and congressional candidate Jim Desmond, who will definitely have some sound advice. Jim, glad we're talking to you and not Gavin Newsom. So how does California clean it up? Take it away, Jim. And we only have about 5, 6, 7 minutes or so. I know you could talk for about an hour and a half about the problem.
Well, it really comes down to priorities. And California, unfortunately, has not put the priorities in infrastructure. They haven't put the priorities where they belong with Californians. They put the priorities on illegal immigrants coming into California. They put out the red carpet. We offered free health care, which is basically a Medi-Cal, or California's form of Medicaid. And Gavin Newsom is just offered more and more services to not Californians, and people who coming here illegally. They haven't cleaned up the streets. We've got homeless issues here, mental health issues, and instead of taking that and making those things a priority, and businesses, we're driving businesses away from California. People are leaving by the droves to go to better places that are much more conservative or fiscally responsible. And that's been the reason why California's gone in such a bad debt position at this point in time. And of course, in Gavin Newsom's way, the answer is raise taxes. Raise taxes on everybody. They need more revenue. Spending's not the problem. It's a revenue problem, they keep saying. For me and others, it's no, we got to stop the spending. We got to clean up our own house first, and then we can get our act together. But instead, unfortunately, Gavin Newsom and the Democrats, all they want to do is say the answer is more money, more money, more money. Yeah, just the other day, I for the sticker, or whatever, the license plate on your car, for my wife's car was $650 just for the annual sticker on the car. And they say, well, we're going to put that towards roads. We're going to put that money towards bridges. They don't. It's a bait and switch. And unfortunately, state of California and, just people coming, they see the homeless issues and people just living on our streets. It's a sad, sad state, and prioritization of public safety and infrastructure so people can live up to their own God-given talents and opportunities to thrive here has been taken away, and we got to get that back in California.
So it's clear that you are dealing with some fiscal issues, some infrastructure issues there in California. I'm just going to go on and throw in cultural issues for good measure here. I want to bring your attention to this headline from USA Today, which says Trump warns Newsom after California transgender athlete qualifies for state championship. President Trump even going on to accuse Gavin Newsom of letting men compete in women's sports. As someone who's on the ground there, talk about how big of an issue this is for regular, average, everyday Californians, and how this is impacting the cultural conversation in that state.
Well, this is an issue that, is nationwide, but here in California, we seem to ignore it. And I'm glad President Trump is coming and saying, look, you have to stop having men in women's sports here. This is an issue that's in one of those 80-20 issues that people on both sides of the aisle get it. We understand it. And the fact that, I have Democrats come up to me and say, hey, this is really kind of crazy. It's gone too far. And I think this is an issue that Democrats are going to lose on. And hopefully the next elections and the midterms here, we're able to flip some seats. I'm running to flip a seat here from a D to an R in California. And people just see the hypocrisy of seeing, a male take all the medals and set records well beyond what any woman, has able to produce to date. So it's really a kind of a crazy atmosphere, and it causes most people in California just to shake our heads saying, what the heck are we doing?
Jim, you mentioned your congressional your run, and I'd love for you to tackle that. On your website, you prioritize an affordable California, a strong, fair, dignified immigration system, and a plan to end homelessness. So talk to us about how you can flip this D to an R and what you'll do on those three main issues.
Well, on homelessness here in California, you see it just every time you go outside. We have allowed our people that have mental health issues to just live and stay on the streets. Gavin Newsom has emptied out most of our psychiatric hospitals. He's emptied out most of our jails and let these people just live on our streets. I want to be able to bring federal dollars to California to treat these mental health issues. Basically, the state of California has said to the counties and cities and other entities that you have to take care of this. You need to, have these psychiatric institutions and mental health places within your own counties and cities. We don't have the money or the infrastructure to do that. But basically, he's just shoving it on the cities and looking the other way. So we've got to absolutely take care of the homeless issue here in California. That's in front of everybody's eyes, and we see that the crime rates have gone up. The smash and grabs have been continuing to happen. Another issue in California is we've got this SB 54, which is a Senate Bill 54 that was passed and signed by the governor that doesn't allow our local law enforcement to enforce immigration law. So when we've had boats coming up onto our shores and 15, 20 people jump out of a boat and just walk into our neighborhoods and unabated because local law enforcement can't do anything. I want to make sure that we're able to keep our laws that all law enforcement are able to enforce all laws here in California to make it a safer place, because people coming in unvetted, we have no idea what their intentions are. That needs to stop. We need to give law enforcement the tools and capability to keep our laws to make our citizens safe.
Hey, Jim, you're in California District 49 over there. That is northern coastal San Diego. You got dip into southern OC, Orange County there. Tell us a little bit about that district, because my understanding is that Kamala Harris won that district by about 7 percentage points or so, though Adam Schiff's percentage was much smaller when he won as a U.S. Senator there. So tell us about the dynamics there, because that has been a traditionally Democrat district, though the OC specifically, and that's not all of what you're doing. I know you're in northern coastal county of San Diego, but the OC has been a very important area in terms of flipping districts.
Well, absolutely. Yes, the district goes across both counties. A third of it's in Orange County and 2/3 of it is in San Diego County. And I think I've got a great advantage here in San Diego County because I've already been elected county supervisor twice within that district as part of my current district. So I've already been elected twice there. But the last time I won, it was a +4 Democrat, and I won by 20 points. And primarily by focusing on common sense issues. Common sense, like we mentioned, no men and women sports, the border issues here. We've also got a sewage crisis here, where Tijuana River through Tijuana empties out into the United States, and we're getting about 5 million gallons of sewage a day. So I'm focusing on local issues here, hopefully be able to solve them at the federal level, but local issues that most people agree upon. And so by being here, already elected twice in this district in the San Diego County portion of it, I think I've got a good name recognition and a great opportunity to bring those common sense 80-20 solutions to the forefront that most people on both sides of the aisle can agree upon, and we can flip this seat from a D to an R.
Well, Jim, great to have you on the show. We love all of our guests, but the guests from California, they get up early like yourself. Boy, you get a special, I don't know. Terrance, do we have stickers? Do we send out stickers? I don't know. I think we do.
You know what? I'll put in a quick order, Jim. Expect something from us soon.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Coming up, go back to bed, by the way. Everyone loves music, but just how much can it help infants? We have those answers just ahead on American Sunrise. We are back in a moment. There's an infant.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I lived right next to that bridge just a short time ago. Well, welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Bo Davidson, in for Dr. Gina. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's time now for today's health news, sponsored by The Wellness Company. And under the microscope today, one that's important to me, the importance of music with babies. A new study says that singing and music training soothes babies. The study appeared in the Child Development Journal, and it showed soothing singing helped improve infants' general moods. Some parents for the study were given smartphone music training, and they learned for new songs from infant-friendly songbooks. And parents even reported they were less nervous after. And I got to tell you, as a father to a 1-year-old, this is absolutely true. I sing to him all the time, so I can vouch for this study. Beautiful story. Well, it is a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. And the truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now, more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again starts at home. So do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Just go to twc.health/RAV today and order. That's twc.health/RAV and use that promo code RAV to save 10%. Now let's send it back over to David Brody in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it. All right, now let's head over to Seattle, where FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino says the Bureau is ordering an investigation into the city's violent weekend protests. So Bongino posted the following on X. He said, quote, "We have asked our team to fully investigate allegations of targeted violence against religious groups at the Seattle concert." And he went on to add that freedom of religion isn't a suggestion. This comes after police arrested 23 protesters at dueling demonstrations in Seattle's Cal Anderson Park. It's a prominent LGBTQ plus minus carry the one neighborhood. The city council now under fire from liberals for granting a permit to Mayday USA. It's a pro-life Christian organization for a protest in a gay community. By the way, Mayday USA's Saturday event was part of the group's Don't Mess With Our Kids national tour. It was promoting traditional Christian values. But Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell described the event as a far-right rally, of course he did, and accused the group of provoking the violent reaction. Mayday USA held a subsequent protest outside of City Hall days later to demand the mayor's resignation. All right, well, for more, let's bring in the lead pastor for Pursuit NW, Russell Johnson. Pastor Johnson has also called on Seattle's mayor to apologize after he blamed the violence on Christians. Pastor, thanks for being here. So tell us more. Where does everything stand? Good morning to you.
Yeah, well, we held a worship rally at a public park, which is apparently a crime against humanity in the Pacific Northwest. The event was swarmed by hundreds of Antifa protesters. They ended up putting police officers in the hospital, beating up good church people, doing all sorts of insane, violent activity against people of faith who were just at a park to sing worship songs and hear some testimonies from people who had been through various difficult seasons in their life. Following that event on Saturday, the mayor of Seattle came out with a public statement saying that the Christians deserved the treatment they received because they were provocateurs, which of course was not true. Every single arrest was on Antifa's side of things, as we held a peaceful worship event at a public park. After the mayor's public statement blaming the church and then threatening to not issue permits to religious groups in the future, we decided that we would take the rally to his front door. And so in about 36 hours, we managed to rally a couple thousand people who wanted to stand on the side of the First Amendment on the steps of City Hall to call for the mayor's resignation. And in doing so, it really started a kind of political firestorm in our community as whistleblowers and different people from within the city began to reach out to me and others detailing the different behaviors and cover-ups and crimes that have happened under Mayor Bruce Harrell's leadership. So I think the pain has just begun for his political career.
Well, Pastor, has there been any walkback from the mayor at all on this? Has he had any remorse, any regrets? Is there anyone in the representatives there that are on your side that see that religious liberty should be protected?
No, the mayor's doubled down on dumb. He released a statement saying that the reason we rallied at City Hall was because he's the first biracial mayor of Seattle. And of course, this is always like the greatest sign that a campaign is falling apart in front of you when the only thing they have left to play is the race card. So, I mean, Seattle is so dominated by leftist, militant, anti-free speech politicians that he feels safe to make these assertions and release these public statements. And of course, then he's backed up by ultra left-wing media like the Seattle Times and others. But the narrative is collapsing because it's so apparent and ridiculous on its face that even people who are not Christian and probably don't vote the way that we vote joined us at the rally to say, why are we even having to debate whether or not a church would have the First Amendment right to sing worship songs? I mean, the media is trying to bill it as some sort of anti-this, anti-that. It's people sharing their testimonies about how God helped them through, met them in prison, got them off of addiction. And some of those people who were sharing testimonies also were sharing on how God rescued them out of certain lifestyles. But it wasn't an anti-gay rally by any stretch of the imagination. They were giving away free bikes, free groceries, face painting for the kids, while Antifa protesters threw water balloons filled with urine at Christians worshiping on a lawn at a park in Seattle. And then the mayor has the audacity to say, you deserved it because you hold the wrong positions on marriage and family that are antithetical to the values of Seattle.
Well, Pastor, I'm very sorry that this happened. I've seen a number of churches who have embraced LGBTQ. You'll see sometimes the pride flag outside of their doors. I'm just curious, just in the last 10 seconds here, has anyone, even from the LGBT community that are Christian, come to your side?
You know, we had actually several who joined us at the rally on Tuesday night at City Hall who said, even though we have a different perspective and opinion on these issues, we value the First Amendment. And if they're coming after you, one day they'll come after us. So we're starting to see a pretty broad coalition build here in the Northwest, standing up for free speech.
Well, Pastor, thank you so much for your time today. We're sorry to hear about what happened. Hopefully free speech will be uplifted soon. Thank you, Pastor.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, coming up, the White House says it has asked Congress to codify the Doge cuts. How long will that take? We have the answers next on American Sunrise.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. Do you want to drink cafe quality coffee at home without the price tag or the compromise? Well, 1775 Starter Kit is packed with value and built for people who care about what they support. You'll get 3 bags of coffee, 2 16 ounces of your choice, dark or medium, plus their longevity blend infused with anti-aging CAAKG, which is clinically shown to support healthy aging and reduce biological age. You cover 2 bags and $17.75 covers the rest. That's a full 16-ounce bag of coffee plus premium gear, a matte black tumbler, a frother, gold scoop, or reusable K-cup filter. Whether you drink whole bean, ground, or pods, it's your call. You get to build the bundle. The coffee is organic, single origin, high altitude, and small batch roasted, which means it's smooth, clean, no jitters, no crash, no bitterness, just good coffee. All that for less than $1 a cup, made with integrity and delivered with purpose. So make sure you're heading to 1775coffee.com/Rav and grab your starter kit while it's still available. Okay, now that we are caffeinated, it's time to stay awake, not woke. And President Trump is continuing to eliminate woke spending from our federal government, sending a rescissions bill to Congress to formalize Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency budget cuts. During a recent interview, White House Budget Director Ross Vought confirms the $9.4 billion package ridding out government waste will reach Congress next week. Gearing up for a battle across party lines, lawmakers in Congress will now have the opportunity to debate the Doge-identified cuts, including terminating government funding for NPR and PBS and slashing USAID funds. OMB director says this package of Doge cuts is hopefully just the first of many.
We want to make sure that Congress passes its first rescissions bill, including the Doge, and we will send more if they pass it. And so this is the first one is foreign aid, USAID cuts, many of the waste and garbage that was funding not only wasteful but hurting our foreign policy, but also the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and NPR. We'll be sending that up, and we're working with Congress. And we've had good conversations to make sure that they knew what was coming. They had some input as to changes that could be made to make it something that could pass the House, and we're excited for that to occur next week.
Wasteful government spending, now that's enough to make you hit your breaking point. Lucky for us, not only is the Trump administration taking federal funding seriously, but also David Zier, the host of Breaking Point for us every weekend here on Real America's Voice, is joining us live. David, we got to get your reaction to this. The first of many. We like to hear that.
Yeah, let's hope so. Congress is looking to make the Doge cuts permanent, either through rescissions or pulling back previously appropriated monies. And it could even escalate to where Trump has to exercise impoundment powers, which allow him to peel back previously appropriated funds by the legislative branch. But remember, these powers were curtailed under Nixon in the Impoundment Control Act of '74. So he's also going to face more legal challenges probably if he does that. But Musk said, balancing the federal budget is a great goal, but Doge can do very little for balancing the budget without Congress cutting more spending. And remember, Musk and Doge can't cut big ticket items like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, defense spending. And remember, this first bill only represents like 0.1% of the budget. There's a long way to go. It's going to take many more bills hitting the floor of the House, as there's $175 billion in Doge savings, and it's important for them to be made permanent. But just remember, for Elon Musk, no good deed goes unpunished. Now you have Dep Rep Subramanian of Virginia, without a shred of evidence, accusing Elon Musk of crimes by setting up servers in the White House, and he's going to investigate and subpoena, and if they take back power, it'll be another impeach-a-thon. But on the other hand, Emily, it's really important for the budget to pass the Senate, because it'll cement so many of Trump's executive actions, including the Golden Dome, the border agenda, unleashing American energy, and so many other things.
Absolutely. All eyes are going to be on Capitol Hill next week. David, tell us what is coming up this weekend on Breaking Points as we prepare for all of this legislation.
Well, I just had a baby granddaughter an hour ago, my fourth one. That was exciting.
Congratulations.
I have passed the David, thank you so much. I passed the David Lurie on the commutation of Gangster Disciples leader Larry Hoover's and his impact in Chicago, both good and bad. And Pastor David Lurie was actually a Gangster Disciples member. So we have an in-depth discussion also with incredible Middle East expert Eric Mandel on comparing the flaws of the original JCPOA Iran nuclear deal against the current Trump-Iran nuclear negotiations. And then I have Real Alloy CEO David Argyle breaking down key aspects of the U.S.-Ukrainian mineral deals, its implementation, and the conditions necessary to get this off the ground over there. I have a super informative show for you. Don't go anywhere. Watch it 8 a.m. tomorrow on RAV.
David, sounds like it's going to be a great show. Now, hold on. How did we not lead with this? Your granddaughter was just born an hour ago?
An hour ago in Manhattan. There's no name yet, though. I think it might wind up being Sienna. Let's see. So now I have 3 granddaughters and a grandson and a couple other kids working on some more.
That is incredible. David Zier, congratulations to you. What a beautiful moment. So happy we got to break the news here on Real America's Voice.
It's exciting.
Yes,
it's breaking news.
So exciting. All right, everyone, tune in to David Zier's show this weekend. Thank you so much for your time here on American Sunrise.
Thanks, Emily.
Coming up, Nebraska is aiming to bring more faith into education. Is it going to work? We assess next on American Sunrise.
God bless the USA.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. It is now time for our moment of faith, brought to us by Lee Greenwood and the God Bless the USA Bible, excuse me. In focus today, the Nebraska State Legislature working to bring back a proposal for religious release time in schools. The proposal is reportedly going to be tacked on to an education bill and calls for students to be allowed to be excused during the school day for off-site religious instruction. For more, let's bring in the CEO and president of Coral Ridge Ministries, Dr. Robert Pacienza, to talk a bit more about this. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So what do you make of this bill? It seems like it makes a lot of sense, particularly for people of faith, but your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people of faith out there that can't afford parochial school or the Christian day school, and they're fed up and they're tired of the constant indoctrination of the secular public school system. And so this gives them an incredible option to continue to educate their children with the way of the Lord, with the way of Scripture, that does not impose their doctrine on anyone else in the public school system, but gives them an affordable option to make sure that their children are still grounded with a biblical worldview.
And, you know, even from a more practical perspective, it seems to me that allowing kids to leave school for a little while or go somewhere and get some spiritual guidance, some spiritual healing, that can kind of ground them. That can offer a reset, particularly during the stresses of a school day.
I can't imagine anyone that would be opposed to this, particularly in light of the empirical data that we have. I mean, this generation currently being educated in our public school system is over-medicated. Mental illness is at an all-time high. Suicide rates are just over the top. So why would we not welcome some spiritual guidance, some religious instruction to understand where our values and where our morals ultimately can be grounded? I pray that Nebraska would lead the way so that other states would follow suit. If there's one thing the next generation needs right now is a moral compass, values that are grounded in objective truth. So I pray that all people would welcome this bill, welcome this option for children to be educated and grounded in something more than secularism and more than humanism.
Mm-hmm. Doc, I'm curious, if you're recruited to teach this sort of class, where do you start? Do you start with the Ten Commandments? Do you start in Genesis? Where do you start? Where do you start the instruction?
Absolutely. You start with the Ten Commandments. They have been the moral guide for civilization for thousands of years. It's not opinion, it is fact. Wherever the moral law has been embraced, the Ten Commandments in society, those nations, those kingdoms, those societies have flourished. Wherever they've been rejected, as they've been rejected for now over 100 years in our society here in America, particularly in the public school system, those societies have floundered and they've resulted in chaos and confusion. So you've got to start with God's moral law. From the time Mount Sinai brought that law to the people of God, that nation flourished. And wherever the nation went that carried the moral law, they've been a light to the nation. So that's exactly where we have to start. The foundation for all other laws, for all other values, and for all other virtues in society.
My sentiments exactly. That was somewhat of a leading question because I hoped that you would go there as well. Doc, good to see you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
All right. We're back with the second hour of American Sunrise after this.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, along with a handwritten chorus to Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA. With its large print and slim design, this Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime. The God Bless the USA Bible makes the perfect gift and cherished family heirloom keepsake to pass on to future generations. Designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation, this large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
Coming up on the second hour of American Sunrise here on a Friday, President Trump set to deliver a major speech on a huge investment in the United States today. Extensive coverage of the president's speech in Pennsylvania is ahead. Plus, a possible assassination attempt on Trump is stopped before any shots are fired. The details of the man that DHS says was ready to kill the president. Coming up. Also, what FBI Director Kash Patel wants Americans to know about possible FBI informants at the January 6th protest. Those details ahead as Hour 2 of American Sunrise starts on a Friday right now. Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of American Sunrise on a Friday. Woohoo! I'm David Brody coming to you from the deep state. Let's bring in Bo Davidson in for Dr. G down in West Palm. T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning to both of you. We're in the triple box. We love the triple box. As Trump would say, so great, the triple box. You know, the thing is that I tell people, my family say, hey, I was on TV this morning and I did this. And they're like, great, okay, go ahead and take out the garbage. They don't care. No one cares that I'm on television. And I put a lot of makeup on, Bo, this morning just to appeal to the millions of people that are listening to my scintillating words right now. Very deflating.
And it's so true because I have the same situation at home. It's like, oh, you did a morning show, you were on TV. Great. Now let's talk about something else. It's like there's just no concern that we do this, but that's okay. You know, we don't.
But I want to talk about myself. I want to talk about and no, they won't let me. They won't let me, T. Bates.
It's like that old Toby Keith song. I want to talk about me, Terrance.
No, I fully get it. You know, I come home and I try to relay the stories of the day to my family. I say, hey, guys, you know, there's this big tariff issue that President Trump is dealing with. And the question I tend to get is it going to impact your paycheck? Just bring this money home. And I'm just like, really? That's where we are? So let's talk about tariffs a little bit, guys, because there's a back and forth, if you will, on this. Of course, you may remember earlier this week, an international trade court said, oh, put the tariffs on ice. Then yesterday, another court, an appeals court, came back and said, no, President Trump, you can continue with the tariffs. It seems like as President Trump is trying to negotiate these various trade deals, this sort of back and forth in the courts can't help, Bo.
It can't help. And Terrance, I really think he needs the power to negotiate and to gain leverage. And my thing is this, David and Terrance, if it wasn't going to be President Trump, who was going to do this? And I say with an R and a D behind your name, was it going to be another Republican president? No. Was it going to be a Democratic president? Heck no. Was it going to be Congress? If it's not him, then who? Someone's got to move the ball forward. And I think he's right to do it. And I think he has to have the ability to negotiate, David.
He is one of a kind, and he is the art of the deal master. And I know we've got headlines to get to. We've got a congressman to get to. So enough of me bloviating. Please, T. Bates, take it away.
All right, well, that is the big story today. President Trump once again has the authority to impose tariffs after a federal appeals court ruled to temporarily suspend this week's decision by the U.S. Court of International Trade, barring the president from moving forward with his tariff policies. The White House immediately appealed that ruling, calling it judicial overreach. In its appeal, the administration argued the trade court improperly second-guessed the president and threatened to unravel months of hard-fought trade negotiations.
The courts should have no role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges. President Trump is in the process of rebalancing America's trading agreements with the entire world, bringing tens of billions of dollars in tariff revenues to our country, and finally ending the United States of America from being ripped off. These judges are threatening to undermine the credibility of the United States on the world stage.
Meantime, Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk's tenure ends today. He and President Trump are set to hold a joint news conference in the Oval Office this afternoon. Taken to Truth Social on Thursday, the president writing, "This will be his last day, but not really, because he will always be with us, helping all the way." After stepping down from his position as a special government employee, Musk is expected to return to his jobs at Tesla, SpaceX, and X. Musk has said that his goal was to save $2 trillion through his efforts with Doge. He hasn't quite realized such aggressive savings, but he does anticipate savings of about $150 billion in fiscal year 2026. That money, by the way, will be recouped through the fraud, waste, and abuse that Doge has uncovered. That's a great check of your headlines. Now let's get you back over to David.
Okay, T-Bates, I appreciate it. Big news today will be when President Donald Trump speaks in Pittsburgh about a major deal between U.S. Steel and Japan-based Nippon Steel. Trump says the agreement is the largest investment in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Real America's Voice will begin special coverage of Trump's Golden Age speech starting at 3 p.m. today. You will not see it on CNN. That should not shock us. MSNBC will not be covering it. We will, of course. Let's talk about this planned partnership more with Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman, great to have you. Look, Trump wants steel to make a comeback. He wants America to make a comeback. Steel important, especially in the northern part of Tennessee for you. Is it northeastern section especially? Tell us more.
Well, you know, when you look at just our overall supply chain and our manufacturing capabilities, you know, we've become overly reliant on China. So this is a piece of a larger puzzle that the Trump administration, the president, is working on to decouple from China, to make us more self-reliant. Because, look, we saw it during COVID. China is not our friend. They can and will choke off our supply chain if it is in their best interest. And so this is a fantastic announcement and just one of many successes the president has had and will continue to have as he's level setting the tariff and the trade negotiations globally, and companies are looking to reinvest in the United States of America, bringing jobs back to the United States. And of course, to nearshore as well, both Canada and Mexico. So we have a tremendous opportunity under President Trump's leadership to bring steel and manufacturing back to our country.
Congressman, as a fellow Tennessean, it's great to be on with you. Just on a personal note, I would like to call your attention to a Just the News headline. ICE arrests illegal Mexican migrant for allegedly threatening to assassinate Trump. This was 54-year-old Ramon Morales Reyes. He allegedly had a note that vowed to kill Trump before deporting back to Mexico. Congressman, I'd always wondered if and when an illegal would aim to kill the president, especially if he were associated with a gang. And to me, this gives even more credence to Tom Homan's work and why we need proper vetting and expedited deportation. How do you see it?
Oh, absolutely agree. I mean, I tend to be a hawk when it comes to immigration, a hardliner, if you will. I think we should ramp up our deportations to the nuclear level and send a message. If you want to come to this country, you're going to have to do it illegally. And if you are here illegally, we're quite frankly going to deport you. This is our country. We have laws. We get to decide who comes in. We get to decide who leaves. And what we've seen is a flood of MS-13 and Trinidad and all sorts of Sinaloa and all the cartels out of Mexico flooding our cities. And you look at Nashville, right? Nashville's the jewel of the South. It's an economic engine of the South. And so with that growth and prosperity also comes the gangs, also comes the crime. And when you have that type of growth and you have a woke mayor like we have in Nashville, you're setting yourself up for a crime wave. And I, for one, am fighting back, pushing back to restore law and order in Nashville and make sure that our communities are safe.
Hey, I'm glad you brought up Nashville and the mayor there. It's my understanding that the House Committee on Homeland Security, House Judiciary Committee are investigating the mayor. You kind of announced that on Monday. Talk about the investigation. And I guess even if we broaden the scope, could other sanctuary city mayors be under investigation? Chicago, of course, comes to mind immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've seen is, again, to that note, ICE have increased operations and presence in Nashville. The city of Nashville, their mayor came out, Freddie O'Connell, and said required police officers, local police officers, to report any activity that they had with federal law enforcement. Then the city began posting that activity online, including agents' names. And so from there, he also encouraged, there's a community oversight board of the police department. He encouraged citizens to file complaints against his own police department. So here he is targeting his own police from doing their job. So I reached out to my chairman, I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, and Jim Jordan. We are opening a joint investigation into the mayor of Nashville and the city of Nashville for their interference with law enforcement, federal law enforcement. Then you also saw a state legislator, a Democrat, used her vehicle during these ICE operations to try to delay and block ICE agents. And so, we've got some wokeness in Nashville, and it's really unfortunate that it takes a member of Congress to step in and to intervene from a mayor who's literally doing his city harm, because we've seen these gangs operating in and around Nashville and Chicago and New York, but all across our country. Like just a few days ago, there was a Chilean gang operating in the suburbs of Nashville. They were systematically robbing homes, and one of those homes was a little 15-year-old girl. She was upstairs in her bathtub. Fortunately, she was able to hide, and they didn't find her. But enough is enough. If you're here illegally, if you're a criminal, if you're a member of a gang, we should have a zero-tolerance policy, and we should kick your butt out of the country.
Well, Congressman, just a quick follow-up. About 30 seconds or so, a couple minutes ago, you said the nuclear level as it relates to illegal immigration. What does that look like specifically, in your view, as opposed to what's being done now? I mean, a lot's being done now, but what's the nuclear level? I can't wait to hear this answer in 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, with a big, beautiful bill, we sent more money to Homeland Security to secure the border, to ramp up deportations, and we just need to continue to do that. We have a lot of gang members operating. I just received a classified briefing from the Homeland Committee talking about the networks that the illegal gangs have in our country, and their distribution networks rival FedEx. Enough is enough. We have the ability to shut that down, and under the leadership of President Trump, I think we're going to do so, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
Congressman Andy Ogles, great to have you with us. We really appreciate you joining. We don't take it for granted. Thanks so very much.
Absolutely.
Always
Thank
good
you.
to see you, Congressman.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, Democrat Senator Cory Booker. Yes, we're talking about him. He's bashing Trump while on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Oh, what a fun fest. We'll talk about it. Plus, an Israeli hostage held captive by Hamas for more than 500 days speaks about what changed the moment President Trump took office. American Sunrise returning after this.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. It's great to have you with us this morning. Time now to drain the swamp, and this morning we are flushing out Democrat Senator Cory Booker for trashing President Trump, calling him an authoritarian. During an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live this week, Booker weighed in on the recent feud between Trump and singer Bruce Springsteen and praised performers, poets, and artists for opposing the president's agenda. He even compared today's entertainers to days past. Take a look at this.
There's a reason why authoritarian leaders attack artists, because they're so powerful. And we are in one of these moral moments again. And a lot of people tune in now, not just to laugh, but actually to have someone who can help them address what's going on, feel a part of a larger family. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's really important.
And I'll tell you, what you're doing is probably slightly more important.
You know, look, we need everybody right now, but
are you talking about Bruce Springsteen?
All right, let's bring in David, Terrance, and Bo for more. Bo, I got to go to you first on this one. I mean, you're a performer, an entertainer, a singer, an actor, sometimes Jesus. I mean, what is your take on all of this?
Well, you know, he mentioned in this interview Red Fox and Richard Pryor, people who turned anguish into laughter, and I agree with that. Being an artist, though, does not give you license to be a smear merchant. When you talk about Richard Pryor, Red Fox, people who've come before us who are really good at taking a situation and giving us a moment of catharsis, that's the way to do it. I think of a comedian like Shane Gillis. He's funny, and you know why? Because he's not hostile. What I think that is happening today with Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, the whole lot of them, is they've become smear merchants. They're not taking societal issues and raising and elevating the conversation. They're becoming hate artists. And I think that's what bothers me about this whole thing. I don't know how you guys see it, but I just see it as artists need to uplift the conversation, not attack someone.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. If I can just ask you another question, and since this is really kind of your expertise, doesn't art typically reflect society? And so what we're seeing in society tends to be that people take a political position or a position in general, and if you don't agree with that position, it becomes a smear. There's no openness or very little openness to having a civil conversation, and so one might expect that similar sort of attitude is reflected in art. It's a question.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you're right, Terrance. I think, look, you look at the Vietnam era, all the music that came out of the Vietnam era. But at the same time, you've got Lee Greenwood singing God Bless the USA. What's wrong with uplifting the country, too? I don't think everything has to be tearing someone down. There is a time and place. I think artists have a lot of license to comment on society, to comment on culture. But at the same time, I think there needs to be moments of uplifting and positivity. It's not always about tearing someone down. Bruce Springsteen made these comments in England, ripping our country. I find that a little bit ironic. Do you guys not? I mean, I think he's trying to tear someone down when I don't think Donald Trump is a foe of the arts at all. Look at what he's doing at the Kennedy Center. We just don't want music that is anti-American and that doesn't reflect positively about this country.
Yeah, you know, someone help me because I need to see Johnny Carson again. And unfortunately, I can't get Johnny Carson back other than in reruns, obviously, and on YouTube, because that's what's missing in America. The celebrities and the late night television stuff has gone off the rails for sure. So it's really sad. You know, I will say this, that, you know, people like Van Jones is a good example of someone who can figure out ways to break bread with Trump on certain issues. And I think that I'm not going to call him the template necessarily, because he's been very vitriolic as well towards Trump at times, but at least he's making an effort to see, okay, you know what, criminal justice reform or certain areas where he can get on board. You know, why can't it just be like that? The truth of the matter is this, that Trump is not conservative. Okay, this idea that people think that Trump is conservative, he's conservative on some issues for sure, but he's a Trumpublican. He's not a Republican. He's not a traditional conservative Republican. There are tons of ways liberal Democrats could meet him in the middle and actually get something good done for this country if they would just not TDS him all day long. But they do. And that's the truth of the matter. This idea that Trump is this conservative guy that's out of the conservative blueprint factory is just not true. It's never been true. He's not that guy. And liberals should understand that if they really want to work to solve problems in this country, then indeed they should work with him. But they won't.
All right, great discussion this morning. We want to know what you guys think. Our viewers, let us know on Rumble or Getter. Hop on and let your voice be heard. Coming up on American Sunrise, who is most vulnerable to title fraud, and how can you protect yourself from becoming a victim? Find out from an expert straight ahead. Also, outgoing Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger takes one final parting shot at President Trump over January 6th pardons. What he said, we have that later in the show. We'll be right back here on American Sunrise.
Welcome back. Look at this beautiful shot from South Florida. This looks like vacation time right here. I can't wait to get away. Sorry, I love each and every one of you, but I think we all need to get away and retool every now and then. Anyway, we're getting you ready for the opening bell here at the New York Stock Exchange. It's going to ring in about 6 minutes. I can tell you that right now in early market or pre-market trading, our board not looking very good. Look at that, red all the way up and down the board. Hopefully when the opening bell rings, this will change to green. We will let you know here in just a few minutes. But first, let's get you over to David Brody.
Okay, I appreciate it, T. Bates. Thanks. Let's talk more about home lock title. Join us now is a cybersecurity expert, James Finch, who is with us. And we want to bring him in. Of course, we also know, as I look specifically here, James is as well the Assistant Director of the FBI Cyber Division. James, thanks for being here. Let's talk about home title lock, because specifically home title theft, because it is a major problem in America, and people need to understand what's going on. So why don't you explain it a little bit to our audience?
Well, thank you, David, and thanks for having me. My first question for your viewers is your title still in your name? I know that seems strange, but with a forged signature, your forged signature on a one simple document and a fake notary stamp, home thieves anywhere in the world can steal your home by basically transferring it out of your name into their name or a name of their choosing. This is very simple. And it really hurts me that after spending 34 years in the FBI, it's easier today to steal your home.
It's an assistant
than
FBI
it ever
director
has
for a certain division. James, let me ask you this. there's so much to understand here as to why this even goes on in the first place. I mean, I'm trying to understand like how some of these organizations and some of these counties allow this to go on, because I mean, I know we're in a digital world here, but you know, I mean, what about the ID aspect to all of this, and how some of this kind of gets through?
Well, unfortunately, the bad guys are taking advantage of a weakness in the system. The county recorder's office is where our home's title is housed, and that's publicly available information. The county recorder's office, they are not police. They have no law enforcement authority. Their only requirement is that they ensure the document is filled out in its entirety. They don't question the authenticity of the signature. They don't question the authenticity of the notary stamp. They look at it and they have a requirement to file it. They don't notify you when your home is transferred out of your name into the bad guy's name. That's not their job. Their job is to make sure the document is filed. They record documents. That's it. And that's a flaw in the system, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. So proactive, people have got to be proactive. What's the best way? And as you might imagine, I'm kind of transitioning to home title lock again, because this is crucial. So explain how people can kind of get involved in this.
Well, the best way is early notification. And you can go to HomeTitleLock.com and learn about Home Title Lock's $1 million triple lock protection. The first lock of that triple lock protection is 24/7 monitoring of your home's title. That means nonstop. The second lock of that triple lock protection are the urgent alerts. Any change, and I mean any change to your home's title, will cause you to be immediately notified. And once you determine whether you authorize that change or not, then Home Title Lock will jump into action. If you say this is not a change I authorize, Home Title Lock's title restoration experts will spring into action. And that is when the third lock of that triple lock protection will kick in. Their U.S.-based title restoration experts will spend up to $1 million to ensure your good name is returned to your home's title if you become a victim.
James, I've got to run. We got to get to the stock market. Thank you so very much. We're going to put it up here, HomeTitleLock.com. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. It's /Sunrise. And use the promo code Sunrise to get a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim. And 14 days of protection for free. Also, make sure to check out what James was saying, the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. There are exclusions that apply, but for details, visit HomeTitleLock.com /warranty. All right, time for tea in Denver, New York Stock Exchange, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
The applause is already underway at the New York Stock Exchange, which means the bell is just moments away from ringing, and then the markets will officially open up. There you have it. As promised, the bell is ringing. The markets are now officially open. And just like that, let's take a look to see how the markets were looking. You may remember about 7 minutes ago or so, this entire board was in the red. Now, look. Everything, well, for the most part, things are in the green, kind of going up and down. That typically happens, but looking a lot better than it was because you've got some positive trading happening right now. Hopefully, by the end of this day of trading, everything will be in the green, particularly for those of you who are investing. Hopefully, you'll make a nice little haul today. We'll continue to monitor it for you throughout the day. But still to come here on American Sunrise, FBI Director Kash Patel saying definitive answers are coming on whether FBI informants were implanted during the January 6th Capitol protests. Why America is about to know everything the FBI knows. That's ahead. Plus, an Israeli hostage who is now free after enduring more than 500 days in horrid conditions speaks out about what happened when President Trump was elected. Those details coming up here on American Sunrise.
Beautiful Breckenridge, Colorado right there you're seeing on your screen with snow still on the peaks. Well, welcome back to American Sunrise. This July, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move decisively from theoretical possibility toward inevitable reality. Learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting the word America to 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text America to 989898 today. It's time now to take the political pulse of America. And here's the beat today, folks. FBI Director Kash Patel is promising to reveal evidence in the January 6th Capitol protest that could, quote, surprise and shock Americans. During a Fox interview on Wednesday, Patel teased the release of the long-awaited report on whether FBI informants were indeed at the Capitol during the protest. Watch this.
People have had questions about January 6th and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that, and we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information, and it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Well, for reaction to this, let's bring in the co-host of Cowboy Logic, Donna Fiducia. Welcome. Good morning, Donna.
Hey, Bo, and everybody. Good morning. All right, I don't even know where to start here. We had a 4-year investigation.
Let's start here. Is this just a tease, or does he have the goods actually this time to deliver?
I don't know if he's got what he's going to deliver. If he watched Cowboy Logic, I could tell him a lot more than what was in I.G. Horowitz's report that came out last December. Horowitz said there were 26 FBI agents on the ground. Now, you got 1 million people there. Come on. And we had people on our show that were retired FBI. Some were there with other active FBI agents and their families. This was maybe if you're talking about official FBI agents, there might be 26. But I.G. Horowitz came out with this report that took him over 4 years to do, saying there were 26 FBI agents there. But you know what, Bo, you got to look at the other things, too. There were busloads of people coming in white unmarked buses that, came into that area. Many changed. There were BLM and Antifa changing into MAGA hats and red gear. And there were so many agitators in that crowd. It's just ridiculous to even think that the FBI would have only 26 people there. Again, maybe 26 that they want to admit to. And I'm open-minded. I hope Cash has more information. I know that this is a very, very intricate investigation, and he has to cross all his T's and dot all his I's, but it may surprise and shock you. I don't know, because, again, we know of at least 5 FBI agents that were there. So if we know of 5, I'm sure there's a lot more than 26. And, again, that's what the I.G. Horowitz report showed back in December after 4 years. I mean, come on. Yeah. We had people on our show that were admitted Antifa and BLM that were there. They said with 250 people. Landon Copeland was his name. And he said he wouldn't be surprised if there were at least 2,500 Antifa and BLM agitators as well. So it might not have been just the FBI, but there were people in that crowd trying to rile up a mostly peaceful demonstration, which it really was.
Yeah, for sure. Agents, sources, we're going to get to the bottom of, or he tells us we're going to get to the bottom of it. We'll see. You've been getting to the bottom of it for a very long time, Donna, for sure. All right, here's a CBS headline to put up. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger, by the way, his last day on the job is today. He says Trump's pardons of January 6 rioters was probably, quote, one of the worst days in this job. Donna, you have to suffer through this, but here it is.
That was probably one of my worst days in this job. I think sent a chilling message to every police officer in this country that, you can be involved in some massive public disorder event, and that you could have a politician later on decide that, well, I liked what this side was doing, so we're going to pardon all these people. It was, I think, a slap in the face to every police officer that was here.
Don, I'm glad you haven't fainted because I was about to get you smelling salts.
I mean, it's just speechless. This guy has 50 years on the job. Has he decided to look into Ashley Babbitt's murder? Now, he was not on the job at that point, but still, the person, in fact, who was on the job at that point was fired 2 days later. Gee, I wonder why. Because he wasn't in on this whole thing. Yogananda Pittman took over after him, and then you have her working with the guy who's now about to take over, Sean Gallagher. That's meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Those two were in on the intel, and we know about this, that was back in December before the election, maybe even earlier than that. And that intel was given to Charles Schumer, we know of, but I don't think it was given to Donald Trump, which means evidence withheld of the intel, the fact that there might be 1 million people there on January 6th, and what were they going to do about it? They wanted this to happen. There were dropped guns in that crowd with clips, and they wanted somebody to pick it up. The protesters all gathered around it saying, no, don't pick this up. I mean, they wanted a shooting problem there, so they, in my opinion, so they could take away the Second Amendment. That's the bigger picture. But this guy's been on the job for 50 years. Ashley Babbitt's murderer is still out there. He has gotten a promotion. His name is Michael Byrd. He makes almost $200,000 a year. He's still there. And there were other people that were killed that day as well. Roseanne Boylan, beaten to death by Metropolitan Police Officer Lila Morris. That, too, is on tape. And this guy said that's the worst day in history. maybe it was a horrible day in history, but certainly not for the way he looked at it. And you know, another thing, let's look at this picture that I sent to you guys earlier. The J6 scam in one photo. There it is. Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone being hugged by Nancy Pelosi. That's really all you need to know. Fanone testified before the sham J6 committee and also in many J6 cases. He may have perjured himself. Hopefully that will come out soon. But he's just one of many who were in there, and he was a wrecking ball on January 6th. So this intel being withheld and everything else, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, they just are trying to cover this up now. They wanted a riot. They didn't get it, and they were mad that it didn't happen because the police fired on a mostly peaceful crowd. That did rile them up. And by the way, what about the bomber? Does anybody care about the pipe bomber that was outside the DNC and the RNC? We'll wait on that and see what happens too. But
well, they say they're going to release that.
On so many levels.
Say they're going to release. They say they're going to release that.
Or continue to investigate. Yeah.
Not holding my breath.
We shall see.
Yeah, no.
You're not holding your okay. Hey, Donna, look, President Trump continues to say had he been reelected initially, October 7th wouldn't have happened. The war between Russia and Ukraine would not have broken out. This morning, we're getting some indications that he may actually be right. This New York Post headline says it all. Freed Israeli hostage Omar Shem Tov, who spent more than 500 days in hellish conditions, says that Hamas treated him better after Trump was reelected and that the terror group wanted Harris to win. Here's how he recounts some of his experiences in captivity.
They wanted Kamala to be elected, but as soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wants to bring the hostages back home. Yeah. So immediately the way they treated me changed. So if it's the amount of food, I could say this, that when Trump became president, yeah, the way they treated us changed.
Donna, I'd love to get your perspective. When I hear that soundbite, I think Trump commands respect.
Yes. Daddy's home also comes to mind, Terrance. I mean, this is almost like they are not allowing the world to misbehave. He was put in solitary for over a year. Boy, it kind of sounds like Jan 6ers, quite honestly. He lost weight, almost 40 pounds. He looks thin there, but hopefully he's eaten a lot of hamburgers, which he said is what he wanted. But what an emotional reunion also with his family. And back on May 19th, he got to throw out the first pitch at Fenway Park at the Red Sox game against the New York Mets. It was a Jewish Heritage Night. I'm actually kind of jealous about that. I got to tell you, that must have been a great honor as well. But he's home. This is amazing. And you know what? I can only imagine what would have happened if Kamala Harris did get elected. The world would be a very, very different place because they're not going to. Well, look at the deal that Trump made in the Middle East. Running all over the Middle East, talking to these countries that beforehand really had no respect for the United States.
Donna,
he commands respect.
Let's tease ahead just a little bit to this Trump speech that's going to be happening later today in Pittsburgh, and this deal that he's making with Nippon Steel. This was a campaign promise for him. And, you know, the whole slogan is Made in America. Talk to us about the importance of that and delivering that campaign promise and what he's going to talk about.
You know, they called the Rust Belt, and thank God Trump is trying to reverse that. This was huge. I mean, when I was a kid, I sound like my mother. Pittsburgh was the home of steel. I mean, it was the best steel. And then the Chinese steel started coming in and cars were rotting left and right. This is amazing. This is going to add thousands of jobs. It's what Trump has promised. And he hasn't forgotten the forgotten man. This is huge. And, he's tireless, too, guys. I don't know how somebody his age does what he's doing. He's got a press conference this afternoon with Elon Musk. Then he's going to go fly to Pittsburgh. I'm tired just watching what he does. He is trying to hold up the world on his shoulders while Congress is on vacation again.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, by the way, Donna, before you get out of here, what's coming up in the barn party this weekend? How many animals will be there, by the way?
Not too many animals. You know what we did? For us, it's Memorial May. It's actually Memorial Year. So this week on Cowboy Logic, we have something special nobody's ever done before. We're going to have combat veteran J6ers speak about who they left behind, who they are carrying the load for, and what Memorial Day really means to them. Whom are you carrying? CarryTheLoad.org. What a great organization. And they are going to talk about who they're carrying, Jan 6 combat veterans. Remember, at one point during the Gulag, 73% of the Jan 6ers were combat veterans, military veterans, I should say, and first responders and police. They were targeted by the Sham J6 committee. So this is going to be very special for us. It's not Memorial Day, but it's
all year.
Memorial May.
All year, exactly. Well, you got a great episode coming up. Donna Fiducia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. God bless. Have a great weekend.
Well, straight ahead, if your summer playlist needs a new single, wait until you hear a song that will have you falling in love with the United States of America. The lyrics are ahead. Also, tools that God uses to reach the hearts of people help these viral nuns touch hearts across the world. The story of these two Brazilian nuns who love to beatbox and dance later in the show. Stay with us.
Let's spill some tea.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. Let's spill some tea, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company. ArtilleryTeaCompany.com, ArtilleryTeaCo.com. Use promo code America's Tea for 25% off your first order. Artillery Tea is all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free and each tea bag can be used not once but twice. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran owned and operated, and a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. So just go to ArtilleryTeaCo.com, the promo code America's Tea for 25% off your first order. Well, it is time to spill some tea and end our teacup today, a new song about loving the United States of America. Listen to this.
I love the USA, from New York City down to Florida. If you mess with us, it's bad for you. Love our freedom and you never take it that away.
The dynamic duo of singer Mason Musso and 2018 Olympian athlete Anthony Watson hope you're ready to rock out to their new single, I Love the USA. If you're in need of a new summer song to add to your playlist, well, look no further. This is it. We're happy to have the guys join us live this morning. Welcome, Anthony, Mason. How are you?
Good.
Doing
Thank you so
good.
much for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Tell us all about this new song. You know, I think we need more songs like this. So tell us about it and some of the lyrics from it.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, the song was simple. I remember meeting Mason at a Turning Point USA conference 2.5 years ago. And to be honest, he was like one of my childhood idols growing up because of his music from his old band Metro Station. So when I found out that he was a conservative, one of the things that I was pestering him to do for years was like, hey, can we write a song together? I really wanted to do an American song, but like when we sat down to talk about it, we wanted to do it from a different perspective, because now when you think of conservative songs, it's kind of one party. It's kind of one party generated, where it's either about, you know, a sitting president or a certain topic. And we just wanted to do something that kind of didn't have any limits to it. And we just wanted to make it about where we're from. You know, all these new songs that are coming out are trying to be these grandiose things that get a lot of attention and get a lot of motivation and inspiration. But we were like, dude, like, where are the songs that like get people excited to just dance and party because they love the United States of America? So Mason laid a track, he put me on it, and then this is what we got out of it.
Yeah, and Mason, you know, earlier in the show, we were talking a bit about Bruce Springsteen and how Jimmy Kimmel and Cory Booker kind of, you know, were bashing Trump and saying that artists have this kind of responsibility really to kind of hold authority to account. I believe that sometimes, you know, music can reflect culture. I believe that. And sometimes you have to, you know, have some tough lyrics in there. But at the same time, I feel like artists are called to a higher duty, to uplift, to inspire, to elevate the conversation. It sounds like that's what you tried to do with the song.
Yeah, I didn't want to, you know, attack anybody. I just wanted the whole message just be, can we all get behind loving the USA? I mean, it's so simple, yet unfortunately we're in a spot in the country where that's difficult to get across sometimes. So hopefully this song can do that and help us all just rally around that message.
And Anthony, did you get to the point where you were meeting people that you felt like were kind of trashing us? I mean, I know younger generations, it seems like there's not the sense of patriotism there once was. And so when you're forming this song, of course, you got to be thinking this is coming from your own personal experience. I mean, that's where great songs come from.
Well, when it came to this song, we've spent a lot of time hearing everybody try to write something that everyone can get behind. But like I said, everyone comes from the same kind of perspective of let's just make it this grandiose thing, which isn't wrong. I'm not downplaying that in any way, shape, or form. But when it came to us, we liked not being kind of limited to like what our standards were. So we were thinking outside of the box, because you have conservatives and liberals that share lots of artists in general that, you know, kind of sit outside of politics. So that's what this was. You know, Mason said it perfect earlier. He said it's not something that's glorifying the right, and it's not something that's demonizing the left. Now, there are times when people put stuff out there that get people behind it because of something that's stirring so well. But for this is a song that, like, when you play it on, it's just something that you can kick off your summertime with, can appreciate the country with, and you can have a good time dancing, because it tells everyone who listens to it this is the importance of what loving America actually looks like. And it's catchy, it's fun, and it's something that you don't really hear of nowadays because everything is so serious.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you guys have written something really great here, and it is something that great for the summer, great to kick off the summer and just vibe and listen to. So where can you find this song? Where can people go to listen to it?
Please download it on iTunes. I Love the USA, Mason Musso, Anthony Watson. Yeah, we're very excited about this, and it's a party song. So any, you know, party you're throwing, make sure you put it on if you love the USA.
Yeah, and hopefully we all do. Well, thanks, guys. Anthony, Mason, we really appreciate you, and congrats on this great song, and much continued success.
Thank you
very much.
Absolutely. Still to come on American Sunrise, a pair of Brazilian nuns are busting a move in beatboxing like you've never seen. Their viral story is next. Sunny Side Up is coming up. Stick around.
I love the USA.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. Time now for the sunny side up, and in the pan today, a beatboxing nun? Oh, there is nothing like a fun, faith-filled moment to close out a Friday show. You guys have to listen to this. Take a look at your screen and see these awesome dance moves. We were just listening to the now viral singing, and yes, you heard that right, beatboxing too, from Sister Marizel of Brazil. While dropping a tune during a Catholic TV channel show this month, the other nuns and priests on set with her couldn't help but get up and dance along. That is so fun to watch. Through countless clips being shared online, Sister Marizel continues to impress music lovers across the world with her beatboxing skills.
But it's just starting a rhythm, it already starts shaking. And there, I'm already used to singing, I'm already used to doing beatboxing. So in fact, for us, it was simple, spontaneous, and at the same time surprising to know that it went viral in this way, even outside of Brazil.
Bo, Terrance, David, I got to bring you guys in on this. That is a great way to close out a Friday show. I remember going to Catholic school back in the day. There was a nun who used to play the electric guitar. She would rock out, and it was the coolest thing in the world. Reminded me of this beatboxing as well, Bo.
Yeah, well, I'm not a nun. I can't beatbox. I'm not a great dancer. So unfortunately, guys, I'm 0 for 3. But if you can do this, this is awesome. Elevating God in the process. I'm all for it. Terrance,